In this video, I will discuss some general characteristics and advantages and disadvantages of air mode of transportation, and also kind of competition characteristics of this mode. Let's see. So first, let's talk about advantages and disadvantages. When it comes to advantages, here are some of the advantages. So first one, high terminal to terminal speed, right? So terminal to terminal speed. Obviously, airplanes can fly at a pretty high speeds and can transport cargo or people to their destination relatively fast once they are in air, at least. Number two, reliability. Right, so you're dealing with very low transit time variation here. Now, of course, we have seen all kinds of delays due to weather, due to just having too many flights taking place at one time, and there's all kinds of congestion at the airports. However, once in air, often the pilots can even catch up a little bit of time that they lost while they were dealing with the congestion at the airport. So usually airplanes are pretty accurate when it comes to delivering cargo or people on time. Now, there's not much we can do, of course, about various natural kind of variables. Number three, low rates of damage. So statistics-wise, they're approximately right there with motor carriers as far as being pretty good at not damaging the cargo a whole lot. Probably a little bit worse than motor carriers, but not too much. Obviously, during the takeoffs and landings, cargo can get damaged more easily. But once in the air, the little bit of turbulence that usually is experienced will not do much damage to whatever is being transported. So these are some of the advantages. Disadvantages. What is this been doing? Disadvantages. Let's see what we got here. Number one, limited accessibility. To travel on an airplane, you have to go to the airport, right? There are no airports on every corner of every neighborhood or every downtown location, right? There's usually one small or sometimes larger airports per certain region, not even per city necessarily. Yeah, so limited accessibility. You need other mode of transportation to deliver cargo to the airplanes. Next one, reduced frequency of flights. Reduced frequency of flights in low density communities. As I mentioned previously, airlines have to compete on economies of scale and economies of density, right? And so especially the economies of density are important here with this point. If simply there's not enough business or there's not enough people living in a certain community, why should I provide regularly scheduled flights on daily basis or even hourly basis? It just doesn't make sense. I'm not going to be able to fill all the seats available on the airplane, right? So just kind of utilization of your capacity kind of issue goes on here. I have to be able to utilize my airplane as fully as possible, or else I may not be profitable and I will go bankrupt. Right? Once the airplane takes off, if the seat is empty, that's revenue that I cannot recover anymore. Three, congestions at the airports. Right? So just congestion in general. Yeah, as the population grows and also the disposable income increases, especially during good times, right? Like we're experiencing right now, the economy suggests that there's more disposable income out there, and you also see that in transportation, all of a sudden more people are traveling using any mode of transportation, but including the airlines as well. And therefore, you see more congestions at the airports during good economic times. But even this doesn't matter as much, I guess, how the economy is doing. Overall, it's we are bursting through the seams when it comes to flying. We don't have enough major airports these days to accommodate all the flights out there, such that we don't have to deal with congestion. Congestion also comes from kind of the post 9/11 era, right? We have to now deal with the security checks, and of course, for the safety purposes, you want to do that. But imagine the world prior to 9/11, there were no security checks. You would just walk to your terminal as if it was a bus station, basically, right? You didn't have to worry about waiting in lines and kind of being afraid that you may miss your flight. Next, high service costs. Well, due to some of the competition that we will discuss in just a moment, having the luxury of having a bed or more space, just more legroom, will cost you significantly. Or if you want additional services, that usually means better food or more food or newspaper or internet. All these things usually mean I have to bring additional technology or just additional cargo on the airplane that ultimately translates into more weight. More weight, therefore I cannot have that extra seat, right? You can only put so much weight on an airplane and before it will not take off. Yeah, so usually it's very expensive to add additional services. And last one here, terminal time and cost significant for short distances under 800 miles, right? So let's write this down. Terminal time and cost is significant when we're talking about distances of less than 800 miles. It's just not economically very friendly to fly distances of less than 800 miles, especially when you're talking about transporting cargo. Right? Maybe on the passenger side, especially in the business community, if I just need to get to Chicago, for example, from Grand Rapids quickly for a meeting, of course, it will justify the expense, even though it may be several times more expensive than driving by car or going by train. But at least I will get there pretty fast. But of course, you have to consider also the congestion at the airport, right? So usually you have to be at the airport a couple hours before the flight. So at the end of the day, I'm not really sure if you would be saving a whole lot of time. All right, so those are kind of the advantages and disadvantages here. Now let's take a look at competition. How do airlines compete? That's kind of the question here, right? You can compete based on service, or if you are specifically in the cargo transportation, then of course there's some elements based on cargo competition. So let's take a look here. So under service competition, we can list such things as frequency. Certain airlines will fly more frequent from one geographic point to another. So that's something you can promote, right? I am the airline that's most often available to you at the Grand Rapids Ford International Airport. And that's something I can promote, and hopefully customers will see that as a benefit, especially in the business community. Again, kind of last minute decision, I have to fly to Chicago. I need to go today, ideally in a couple hours. Well, maybe there are airlines that offer hourly flights or at least 2 or 3 times per day. Network. All right, network. So just how many airports am I connected to? How many direct flights can I offer based on how extensive my network is? Right now, every time I want to establish a point of operation at a certain airport, of course, that's going to cost me some money, right? Airports will ask me to pay certain monthly or annual fees in order to have some capacity dedicated to my company. Right? So there's, of course, consideration, again, of economies of scale and economies of density. Is it worth all these additional expenses? Is it worth for me to offer service in certain location at certain airport? Timing. It's a little bit related to frequency, but here with timing, what I mean here is when do the airplanes, flights are actually scheduled? Morning hours, afternoon, evening? What is the demand out there, right? So understanding my customers here is very important. Again, if I'm primarily trying to, for a specific route, I'm trying to serve the business community, maybe having a flight early in the morning at 6 a.m. Might be very interesting because the business people want to be somewhere at the beginning of a working day. And then probably they want to fly back home, ideally the same day in the evening, so they can be home by 6, 7 o'clock or so. Right? If I'm talking about leisure, vacation kind of travels, maybe offering flights at a little bit later time might be more appropriate. Next one, just advertising in general that's used to differentiate the services out there, right? So advertising in general, right? The amount of advertising that I have out there. And, I can advertise amenities, frequent flyer programs, and just the services in general. Often when I see one of these wonderful advertisements on TV, they will show a customer taking a nap on an airplane or having this wonderful kind of private cabin. And then the reality is quite different, right? Unless you can shell out some significant cash. All right, no frills service. So quite the opposite to what I just described here. no frills service. We're just going to take you from point A to point B. And because of that, we can offer a little bit lower price than our competitors or than us if we would include additional services. With that said, you're welcome to purchase additional services, extra carry-on luggage or checked bags, and the usual internet, food, and so on that you can purchase even directly on the airplane. So that's service here. Now, when it comes to the cargo, there's a few other things worth mention. So under cargo, you can emphasize such things as low transit time. And again, especially if we're talking about 800 miles plus, okay? Believe it or not, even door-to-door services. All right, so up here we mentioned that there's fairly limited accessibility out there, and for obvious reasons. Many airline industries, when you're thinking about SWOT analysis as a company, right, you always try to understand your threats and your kind of disadvantages. And then you may want to focus on those disadvantages. How can we improve in those specific areas? And so one way to do that when it comes to airline companies is to partner up with some logistics companies. So often you will have contractual kind of arrangements, even with UPS, for example, to UPS Freight, probably more specifically, to deliver and offer door-to-door service as an airline company. But you may own your own fleet of trucks as well, and some airlines do just that, at least to a certain extent. They have in some strategic locations, usually, again, high-density populated areas. That's where they would own their own trucks and offer door-to-door services. Now, there's more competition coming from carriers from other modes who are entering the airlines kind of business when it comes to on the cargo side, at least, right? So your FedEx and your UPS companies these days, they own their own airplanes as well. So competition from other modes, right? UPS, FedEx, and the likes. And moreover, even passenger airlines, right? So United and all the other ones out there, American Airlines, Delta, and so on. There's a reason why they charge what they charge for checked luggage, because they know that if they can avoid having people checking their luggage, that they can use that space for cargo actually. So while you are being you are getting on an airplane, meanwhile they are adding possibly even a UPS cargo, a few pallets for UPS that's being transported just to utilize the capacity. Even UPS and FedEx may outsource to these passenger airlines when they're running out of space, out of capacity, right? So during heavy seasonal periods such as Christmas time, they often outsource even to these passenger airlines, right? So passenger airlines capacity is often outsourced to for cargo purposes. Okay. Okay. One more kind of way that we can talk about competition is intermodal and intramodal competition. So intermodal and intra. Just to kind of clarify again, inter means across modes, intra means within this one specific mode of transportation. So now on the intermodal side of things, again, just limited competition from other modes when you're talking about distances of more than 800 miles, right? So more than 800 miles, limited competition. Once you get much below the 800, then obviously the opposite is true. And this is true for both passenger and cargo, right? So long distances type of travels, airline industry has very much an advantage here over all the other modes of transportation. And of course, this is especially true for when you're talking about speed, when you're trying to get somewhere fast. Now, on the other side, if you're talking about money, obviously it may not be as cheap as some other options. Now, on the intramodal, you actually have quite intense competition among the air carriers. So intense competition, right? They often, what do they compete on? What's the primary point, right? Rates, how much we charge, right? If you go to kayak.com, that's at least, I don't know, that's my website that I like to use, but there are many others, kayak.com, right? You search for a flight and you'll get all kinds of prices for various airlines. But the differences of rates these days are within a few dollars, but nevertheless, they do compete on a rate. And then there's this idea of dynamic pricing that you will see in one of the videos that I will post with this lecture here. It's interesting how this dynamic pricing works in airlines, and often many people ask whether that's even legal. So please check out that video, and I'll be happy to kind of hear from you what you think about dynamic pricing, whether that should be legal or whether that's more kind of abusing the consumer. Yeah, so based on rates, based on services, of course. Right, but because this competition is just so intense, as I mentioned in the previous video, right, there was a lot of consolidation that took place over the last couple of decades for this specific reason that airlines compete on economies of scale, economies of density. So obviously, the larger you are, the more competitive you can be, and therefore you can offer better rates, more services, and so on. So that's good. We want to have intense competition. Competition is good. Usually that translates to more services and better prices for whoever's using this mode of transportation, businesses or passengers. Okay, and that's that for this video.